Robert Duncan McNeill's three Star Trek characters share something unusual in common. Robert Duncan McNeill might always be best remembered as Tom Paris, the cocky yet big-hearted helmsman of Star Trek, Voyager, but that's far from his only role in the franchise. Long before Paris joined the crew of the USS Voyager, McNeill had already appeared in Star Trek: The Next Generation, and after his Voyager days, he returned once again behind the camera as one of Star Trek's most prolific directors. Interestingly, across his three distinct Star Trek characters, Nicholas Locarno, Tom Paris, and his later voice appearance in Lower Decks, there's an unusual connection that ties them together. Whether intentional or coincidental, all three of McNeill's Trek personas share a very specific and meaningful trait that perfectly encapsulates what his career in Star Trek represents: redemption, rebellion, and the enduring hope of second chances. One Robert Duncan McNeill's Star Trek journey spans decades. McNeill's first step into the Star Trek universe came in 1992 when he played Nicholas Locarno in Star Trek: The Next Generation Season 5 episode The First Duty. The character was introduced as a brilliant but arrogant Starfleet Academy cadet who led a dangerous flight stunt that resulted in another cadet's death. Rather than admit fault, Locarno encouraged his teammates, including a young Wesley Crusher, to lie about the accident. When the truth came out, Locarno was expelled from Starfleet. It was a powerful episode about accountability and pride, and McNeill's performance made a strong impression. He perfectly captured Locarno's charm and confidence, while also hinting at the insecurity beneath his bravado. The episode became a fan favorite, and many assumed Locarno might return, but instead, something unexpected happened. 3 years later, McNeill returned to Star Trek in a new series, Star Trek: Voyager 1995 to 2001, this time as Lieutenant Tom Paris. Fans immediately noticed the similarities between the two characters. Paris was also a disgraced Starfleet officer, expelled from the Academy for a piloting accident, and later convicted for aiding the Maquis. Yet unlike Locarno, Paris was given a second chance when Captain Janeway recruited him for Voyager's mission. Then, decades later, McNeill reprised a third Star Trek role, again connected to his earlier characters, when he voiced Locarno in Star Trek: Lower Decks Season 4. This time, the character had evolved or perhaps devolved into a full-blown antagonist, leading a rebellious fleet against the Federation. Taken together, McNeill's three Star Trek characters, Locarno in TNG, Paris in Voyager, and Locarno again in Lower Decks, tell a fascinating story that transcends their individual appearances. To the unusual common thread between McNeill's three Star Trek characters, what do Nicholas Locarno, Tom Paris, and Lower Decks' older Locarno all have in common? At first glance, the answer seems obvious. They're all pilots, rule breakers, and men defined by their failures. But the unusual commonality runs deeper. Each character is a mirror reflecting a different stage of self-redemption within the Star Trek universe. Across all three portrayals, McNeill embodies the archetype of the fallen prodigy, the gifted pilot who crashes, both literally and metaphorically, and must face the consequences. That idea is central to Star Trek's moral core, and McNeill's characters personify it in three unique ways. 1. The Fall: Nicholas Locarno. TNG. Locarno begins as the golden boy who can do no wrong. He's talented, charming, and admired by his peers. But his arrogance and desire to be seen as a hero lead to tragedy. Instead of taking responsibility, he lies and manipulates others. His punishment, expulsion, marks his moral and professional downfall. 2. The Redemption: Tom Paris. Voyager. Paris is essentially what Locarno could have become had he chosen the right path. Like Locarno, he's reckless and flawed, but he owns his mistakes. Janeway's decision to give him a second chance is the emotional heart of his character arc. Throughout Voyager, Paris grows into a mature, responsible officer, finding love with B'Elanna Torres and earning genuine respect from his crew. 3. The Regression: Older Locarno. Lower Decks. When Lower Decks brought back Locarno in 2023, it presented a tragic what-if scenario. This Locarno represents the version of Tom Paris who never got his second chance. He's older, bitter, and obsessed with rebellion against the very institution that rejected him. His fate, destroyed by his own actions, completes the cycle that began with his youthful arrogance in The First Duty. The unusual link between these three characters, then, is not just that McNeill played them, but that together they form a single moral narrative about failure, redemption, and the human need for forgiveness. No other actor in Star Trek's history has embodied such a full arc across multiple versions of essentially the same soul. Tom Paris and Nicholas Locarno were never so different. For decades, Star Trek fans have debated whether Tom Paris is Nicholas Locarno in all but name. The similarities are undeniable, and even Voyager's writers have admitted that Paris was inspired by Locarno. However, they decided not to use the same name due to story and licensing reasons. If they had reused Locarno, the TNG episode's writers would have received royalties for every Voyager appearance. Still, the creative lineage between the two is clear. Paris's backstory in Voyager's pilot episode Caretaker is almost identical to Locarno's in The First Duty. Both are expelled from Starfleet for reckless piloting, both are haunted by guilt, and both are offered redemption through a new mission. The key difference lies in how they respond. Locarno deflects blame. Paris takes it on. This contrast becomes even more interesting when Lower Decks reintroduces Locarno decades later. The animated series plays with the idea that Locarno and Paris are two sides of the same coin, one a cautionary tale, the other a redemption story. In Lower Decks, Locarno's return is framed with tragic irony. He's still trying to prove himself a hero, still driven by ego, but now with nothing left to lose. Meanwhile, Paris, last seen on Voyager living happily with B'Elanna and their daughter, represents what Locarno could have been had he chosen humility over pride. For McNeill's performances bridge generations of Star Trek. Robert Duncan McNeill's contributions to Star Trek go far beyond his acting. After Voyager, he transitioned into directing and producing, helming episodes across the franchise, including Star Trek Enterprise. His career behind the camera shows that his connection to the Trek ethos, growth through experience, continues even off-screen. What's remarkable is how his 3 Star Trek roles form a meta-narrative about Star Trek itself evolving through time. In the 1990s, The Next Generation explored moral responsibility and duty, perfectly embodied by Locarno's fall. Voyager in the late 90s focused on second chances and the possibility of redemption through community, which defined Paris's story. Finally, Lower Decks, a 21st-century satire of Star Trek's own mythology, revisits these ideas with self-awareness, presenting Locarno as a relic of old mistakes that can't be undone. Each version of McNeill's character fits perfectly within the tone and theme of its era. That coherence across decades speaks not only to the writing, but to McNeill's understanding of what makes these men tick. He gives each of them the same spark, the mixture of ego, charm, and insecurity, but lets their fates diverge according to the lessons they either learn or refuse to learn. 5. The shared legacy of redemption in Star Trek. There's another layer to what unites McNeill's Star Trek characters. They all test the Federation's belief in rehabilitation and moral growth. Star Trek has always been about striving for the best in humanity, even when individuals fall short. Locarno, Paris, and their Lower Decks versions all challenge that optimism. They represent what happens when someone is given a chance to redeem themselves, Paris versus when they aren't Locarno. That moral duality gives McNeill's roles unusual narrative weight. Few characters in Star Trek embody the consequences of personal failure as vividly as Locarno, and few embody the triumph of self-improvement as clearly as Paris. When viewed together, they tell one of Star Trek's most enduring lessons: people can